Rory Kelleher, and I'm a team lead with WASART. Tulla was a rescue that we did a number of years ago off Feather Mountain up near Sumas in Whatcom County. Tulla had been stranded on the cliff edge for, we believe, a couple of days. I've heard different versions, and it may be actually a week plus. Nobody knows how she got there. And people that called in were complaining about this dog barking for a number of days. So we were asked to go up and assist with Whatcom County SART to try and find the dog. We did that. I remember we got there at maybe 7 o'clock in the morning. We briefed the teams. We left the command post somewhere around 8:30, and I'm thinking, this will be 6 hours. We should be back by 3 o'clock. Didn't kind of work out that way. The bigger issue was that we had is we couldn't locate her. Nobody knew where she was. And her barking was actually echoing off the rock face. We eventually found a couple of locals who hiked that area on a regular basis, who showed us a trail up to the top of the mountain and then kind of indicated where they thought she may be. So from there we were able to start rappelling down. We figure somewhere around 700 feet, maybe a little more than that. She was about 150 feet down when we found her. So when you set up your rappel line, you're assuming that you're going to rappel straight down to where the animal is. Well, in this case, that didn't happen. As we got close to her, she stopped barking. I wish she would do that now, but she stopped barking. So I actually rappelled past her. I got about 60 feet down below her, and then we heard this barking again. And I looked up, and she was about 60 feet above me and to my left. So we had to climb the rope, go back up again, and then reset anchors and get about 20 feet over. That was exhausting, absolutely exhausting. And it's through rock face and heavy brush. At that point, she was probably only about 10 or 15 feet below me. Still couldn't see her. Landed pretty close to her, and she was on a little ledge that was on one end probably about 12 inches deep, and on the other end maybe 9 inches deep, and maybe about 8 feet wide. And she had actually burrowed into the cliff edge and made a little nest for herself in there. She was emaciated. She hadn't drank in a number of days, which I think was probably a lot of the reason why she was so small. I was able to secure myself with extra webbing to a couple of tree roots and stuff sticking out of the cliff face, which then allowed me to get a hold of her and get some webbing onto her. So the first thing I did then was tie her onto me, so if she fell, I would still have her. I kind of figured the best way to get her down safely was to put her in my backpack. So I started emptying my backpack and dropping all my equipment down to Ed, who was about probably maybe 30 feet below me. She was just happy to see me, and I was able to stuff her into the backpack and tie the drawstring on the top, keep her little head out the top of it. And she was still on a web harness and clipped into me as well, at which point I was able to rappel down, met the WASART teams that were there, and literally just said, here you go, and just handed her off, backpack and everything, and they took her out and gave her water. We'd given her water up above, but gave her water, and they kind of whisked her away, and off she went to get checked out by animal control and things like that. For the most part, I pretty much collapsed at that point. I was eaten alive. I mean, like, I was literally eaten alive. There was so many insects and spiders and things like that that were in the brush. And I talked to Ed a couple of days later, and he said he was in the same way. Animal control was there. They took custody of her. They kept her for 3 days. And then she was, they called me and they just said, there's no chip in her, there's no collar, nobody's claimed her. Would I be interested in adopting her? My partner Krista said, well, let's go up and have a look. Well, that was the end of that. My background is Irish. Tulla is actually Gaelic for hill. Considering we found her on a hill, I said, we'll call her Tulla. And I've had her since. So she's a little over 5 years now at this stage. And she's doing great. She goes paddleboarding with me now.